I got a question for you. More of a hypothetical situation. Your deadline, your personal deadline to publish your first novel is rapidly approaching. The first draft of that novel was over 178,000 words. The current draft, you are desperately trying to cut that down, but you've lost all possible way of knowing if you are actually cutting words, and if you are, if you're cutting as many words as you think you're cutting. What would you do in this situation? I really don't care, because I already know what you would do, and it wasn't what I did. You see, I asked this because this was my real life situation a decade ago, during the summer of 2016. That's right, 10 years. Wow, 10 years. Whew, that time flew by. I did the smartest thing you could ever do by ignoring those feelings, ignoring the situation, and decide it's time to do a series on culture on my then blog, where I would then create my own brand new, totally brand new fantasy culture and then write a short story about it.
Did you think I was going to do the smart thing and change my publishing deadline?
What's up, word nerds? I'm Tim Green. Welcome to the channel. This is where I talk about whatever the f I want, writing related. In today's video, I'm going to finally come through with something I promised in this pain in the ass video to get out, where I said the things I was removing would get their own video. This is one of those. This is the video where I will talk about the background on Rajara, the series of novellas that are part of my year 43 of writing progression. What we'll cover here is the tedious, all over approach to develop a culture and a story just so I can write a short story. Novella? No, short story. I think it was supposed to. It really doesn't matter. I'll go over the current plan, a small update on how that's going at the end of the video. If you want to know what I'm talking when I say year 43, check out this video. You know what to do at this point. The whole like, subscribe, bell, comment down below if you go on to enjoy this video. Okay, with that said, let's just stop wasting time and dive right into how I did not do the smart thing and change my publishing deadline, and how I totally failed at creating a brand new fantasy culture. People. Let's talk about it. So here's the concept. An all-female desert warrior people who may or may not have to be human. I don't remember. It's been exactly 10 years, so it's hard to remember. Also, I had a lot of troublesome things on my mind at the time. This just makes it harder. Regardless if they were meant to be humans or not,
They were totally humans.
I named them the Tarush Sand Warriors. These ladies were brown skin, orange to dark orange hair, and possibly matching eyes.
Not sure.
They reproduced like bees, but not with a queen, but with a king. One male. And he did have some power, but not much, because his entire job was, throw in forbidden to mate with other people, and that's it. That was the full concept for this rich, detailed, brand new fantasy culture.
True story.
That's not a culture. It's barely enough to even consider a people. And I stopped working at this rate around here because I knew jack shit about making a culture. Oh, and the reason I'm doing all this was because I'm trying to distract myself the fact that I'm not going to make my publishing deadline. Oh yeah, and story ideas started to flow in my head, and that was more interesting. So I decided to focus on that. So why not move to the story concept? The story's concept. When I first wrote the blog post that I said I was going to develop this fantasy culture and then write a story about it, it was meant to be a short story. So it was obvious the best story to tell is just a day in the life of these people. Pick a character and go through her average day. That's great. We're going to see a story. You can throw some conflict in there, but that's it. And that's what I did. I did the smart thing and decided to tell the story about a legendary figure. That's right, a chosen one story. You are an idiot! About the return of the legendary Steiny. How a young girl got picked for this legendary figure. And how the leadership saw this girl as a disgrace for being picked. All because she doesn't want to be a warrior. She wants to be a scholar and have a family of her own. Oh yeah, and the Steiny has a very important role within the council and the whole role of the people in general. So why would the grown adults want this teenage girl on that? That might be part of the reason why. This girl's name was Anestina. And over the years, it got changed. It went from Anestina to Nestia to Anestana, back to Anestina to now Nesina. And that's the concept and the character. Let's move on to the plot of the story, not just the concept of the story. Here's the plot. The Tarush are holding peace talks between two of their allies, the Evermoon Empire and the Sunshine Kingdom. Surprise, surprise, the representative of the Evermoon Empire is bad and wants to release the Walaka Horde.
Demon-like creatures
that were defeated by the Tarush, led with one of the last Steinies. But to do this, they need medallions from the elders, several of them. One by one, they start to get killed off. Nestia is assigned to solve the murders, to investigate, and she does. Now, if you paid attention, I said that they a second ago. They need. I don't mean the Empire. I meant the people involved, because here's the twist. One of the Tarush tribes is working with them. And that tribe just so happens to be the tribe Nestia's best friend Ralia's from. You see, the reason why they want this is a lot of time has passed and no one believes the Tarush exist or ever existed. They are myths, fable tales. And this tribe wants to change that. And what better way to turn to the world than by defeating the one enemy they and they alone defeated and saved the world last time.
Not bad.
And this is the story I kept trying to tell for so long. It also was supposed to be the start of a series. The series. Shocker, right? Me take something and just make it a series. Which makes sense because that's what I was doing around this time. If I came up with an idea that I liked, it basically was going to be a series. Because I was incapable of just having something be a standalone. It also may have something to do with the fact that at the same time, I was really trying to dive into my multiverse series. And for that, you need worlds, so why not? Became the last or one of the last Tarush. Problem was, I could never figure it out. I could never figure out where the story would go, but no matter what, it stayed on the docket. When I had too many projects, decided to cut things, it remained. And I could not tell you why that was. It just did. I think it had something to do with the fact that I knew if I could just write this prelude, just if I could finally get it written at some point, everything would lock into place. I would figure out the story. I'd figure out what this series was going to be. And that's why I kept trying for a decade to write it. And the story took on different forms, different versions over the last 10 years. So let's look at those different versions. So let's start with the first one, which was a typical linear story with very vague beats, like a sentence with no way to understand what the intent was. And this is because I did not understand the world at all. And there's surprise, surprise, I didn't write it. Or if I did, I definitely did not get very far in it. And before I gave up on it, it may have helped the fact that I had to pack my entire life up in Arizona and drive back across country after only 2 months. So that could have been the reason. But a year later, I came back to the story, but I wanted to try something different. How about non-linear story? Because I love non-linear. If you want to know about how much I love non-linear, check out the Skylar Grant podcast if you want some laughs. Or if you just want to listen to the horrible pants story version of the novel, you can just do the audiobook. But it's non-linear. I like non-linear. It makes me think that's why I like Christopher Nolan movies so much. For this version, it was very simple. Take the story, you break at the midpoint, and you overlap them and then intercut so every other chapter is either present day, which is from the midpoint to the end, flashbacks from the actual beginning to the midpoint. This way, how Nestia gets to the midpoint and the actual story climax at the same time. So, in other words, you get 2 climaxes in one story. You can take my last statement however you wish. And it worked. I actually wrote this a little bit. I believe at this time is when I fleshed out the beats more, so it was a little bit easier to get going. But I didn't get very far in the writing before I just, once again, gave up. Because I still did not know the world. And I need to know something about the f***ing world before I can really sink my teeth into something. It wouldn't be until about 2019 when I would come back to the story again. This time, scrapping the original story and focusing more of a character piece. I wanted to focus on Nestia. I wanted to look at how being selected as this mythic figure within her people changed her life, and not for the better. How she saw the life she wanted was ripped from her because she was selected. So for most of my writing career, when I was fleshing out a story, plot was the thing I focused on, and characters were the last. Eventually I would bring them in and try to flesh them out, but the plot was kind of locked in. I needed them to do certain things. It was around 2016, 2018, I just really made an effort to make sure the character got brought in as soon as I could. Once I had an idea of what I was going to be doing with the plot, I would start thinking about the key characters, and this project, this version of the story, felt like a good chance to just focus on a character and with low stakes. The events would focus on religious elements of the people and how the cleansing rituals and all this stuff to prepare her to be brought forth towards her people as an official crowned mythic figure. It's this one where I changed the title from Steiny to Sirja, and it was once again, it's not really a non-linear story. There was flashbacks, but it was going to be only a few here just to kind of show how she got to this point. It would show her transformation and stuff like that, but nothing too much, because at the heart, this was going to be a short story. It was really good. I liked it, but I didn't last. Not at all. I don't think I started to write it, but I could be wrong. And if I did, it didn't get very far before I, once again, threw it to the curb and moved on to something else. Rajara was the next attempt. This wasn't until 2024. And I once again changed the title of the mythic figure to Rajara. I just liked it better. And I changed the Tarush to Taru. And one other change, very important change, was made. Nestina was now an Astana. I just liked the name better. And Nestina just felt weird for some reason to say. I don't know why. But that was the big changes. But we're still telling the exact same story from Sirja. with changes and additions. Gone is the whole transformation story I've been going before, because that was still a highlight of that. This one, we still see Anastana's transformation because it happens right at the beginning of the story, at her execution. Very quickly, she is accused of being a false Rajara, because Anastana is from the Adulti tribe, a tribe that is under 100-generation punishment for something they did. And this priest refused to accept that the gods would pick one of the Adulti as a Rajara. And there's the only way she can prove she's a true Rajara is to walk through holy fire.
Oh, did I forget to mention?
Anastana's afraid of fire?
That became the story. And like a lot of things, when things were come quickly to me, this short story,
Short novella.
quickly bloomed into more.
Vastly more.
Almost to a novel, but not enough content for a novel. It was weird. In this bloom, something interesting happened. Anastana was Anastina or Nestina this entire time. During this development, that changed. Anastana became a separate character. Nestina's character still existed, a different story, and they could fit together. And a lot of things clicked around this time. By May of 2024, I'd given up on the project again. A lot of shit was going on in my head around this time when it came to writing, and I stopped. If you want to know what that is, you can check out this video, this vlog I did in August of 2024, which I cover it in great detail. That was the last time I developed Rajara until now. Before we wrap this section up, I do want to point out one thing. Something interesting happened. I want to talk about something I said at the end of the last section. Why the Tarush Sand Warriors stayed on the docket no matter how long it was there, and I couldn't figure out the story. And how I just need this prelude be written to figure out before things would click. And I wasn't wrong. A few months later, I would start to work on another project, and that became Fate Marked. And that world I could see. That world I knew. And it's ironically, that's the world where Rajara belongs. That's the world where Rajara exists now. And it's interesting that I now have a picture of this world. I could go on about how this came about. That is for another video. This wraps up basically the background on the Rajara project in general. So let's move on to the plan, which we're going to start with a recap of the old plan. Recap of the old plan. The old plan was very simple. Rajara was going to be the third project in the year of progression, because it was going to be a series of novellas telling a full story, a complete story. You split Rajara into 2 novellas, you split Nestina's story into 2, and then you add 2, maybe 3 if you need it, so you can wrap up this story. The reason I needed more novellas, besides the 4, is so Anastana could figure out into the story I was telling with Nestina. The problem was, this was before I looked at the beats for Nestina's story. I thought they were more fleshed out. I thought there was more story there. It's bad. Even in the fleshed out beats I did in 2017. To do what I originally wanted, I'd have to do a lot of development. And this is not the year of development, it's the year of writing. So the plan has to change. So here is the new plan. The new plan. It's very simple. 3 novellas. Rajara, Sinjira, and Sunkissed. Each one kind of builds off each other, but I will be honest. Sunkissed, that story requires a lot more story or novellas before it to make sense, I feel like, and it's not going to happen. I'm just going to do my best when I'm crafting it, so it's a final book. Comes to time to publish, if I decide to publish these, I will have to rework this entire story so it all works out. So that's something I'll worry about then, because the year of progression It's about writing. Just something I gotta keep getting through my head. You know the names, but I'm not writing them in that order. You see, Sanjira is gonna be the first one to write. Then Rajara and Sunkiss will be the last one because it's the furthest. It needs a lot of planning still. I know the story, just gotta get that plotting out now. So Sanjira is ready to go, so let's just get that started. Why not? Makes sense. Rajara needs to be condensed, and I'm starting to do that to allow the time frame to work, as well as just take these 158 bullets of an idea and work within a novella length. This also gives more time for me to finish the planning for Sunkiss. But that's the plan. We're done. I told you. It's very simple. 3 novellas, and we're on to War Clans after that. But with that said, let's move on to the short update so we can wrap this video up. Here's where I am. I am actively writing Sanjira. I started August 1st, and it's going well. My current word count is going to be on screen because by the time this video goes live, it will be higher than where it is as of recording. The word count is as of editing, just to be clear. If you want to know the actual word count, you can go to Blue Sky, where I've been posting daily my current word count, my words for the day, and the current word count. I'll also have on screen how far I have left to finishing Sanjira. I'm focusing on Rajara to get a bare bones outline and idea for the scenes list before going in working on the many decisions that need to be made for Sunkiss. The goal is to have as little time possible, downtime possible, between when I finish writing Sanjira and I picking up Rajara, and the same thing when I finish Rajara, picking up Sunkiss. This is due to my schedule changing greatly from what I'm used to for the last several years in the fall, and I want to make sure I don't have a lot of work, or more importantly, 3.5 month writing gap like there was from Stolen Island to when I started writing Sanjira. That's where I am now. Hopefully I'll be able to get to War Clans by, here's my goal, end of October. We're hoping, don't know. There you have it. The background on the Rajara story, broken up in a very easily understandable way without my hemming and hawing about the difficulty with the project. Though I think you kind of got the idea of how much of a pain in the ass it's been to do this story. You can expect another story like this when I get to War Clans, and I will cover the 26-year development background in that video. You can expect that around the time I start to fully develop working on War Clans, which will be around the time I start to write Sunkiss. So you can look forward to that video. You can also look forward to season 3 of the Storytime podcast, which will be coming out in October. You can look forward to that as well. If you're still here, I'm assuming you enjoyed this podcast, so why not go and smash that like button and do it as a prayer to the holy algorithm. And subscribe to the other content on this channel, which is on screen now, which is best served for you. Pick something. We'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.